Welcome back to Astro Auto Styling. I'm Lucas, and in today's video, we're answering the question, are Toyotas overpriced? I live in the GTA. For those outside of Canada, it's that area right around Toronto. And when I'm looking online for cars in this area, it's like I've entered the twilight zone, especially when it comes to Toyotas. Look at the price of this brand new Toyota Sequoia, $115,000 for a Toyota. That's a crazy price tag for a brand that used to be known for affordability and like great value. So naturally, this got me thinking, are used Toyotas any better? I've compiled a bunch of data from current listings comparing used Toyota SUVs to their competitors, and honestly, it's worse than you think. Before we get into the numbers, let's take a step back and ask, why do people buy Toyotas in the first place? Well, reliability is number one. Toyotas are known for lasting forever. They're cheap to maintain, they're safe, and honestly, their resale value is absolutely insane. I think the issue facing Toyota now is that their vehicles hold their value so well, it actually makes them unaffordable in the used market. Or at the very least, it's not really a great deal anymore. But before we start condemning Toyota, we need to address what affects used car prices in the first place. The main factors are supply and demand, age and mileage of the vehicle, its condition, and the overall economy. So the first one, supply and demand. We've seen that in 2020 and 2021, when fewer new cars are being produced, the used car market begins to skyrocket and prices go crazy. Next, you have age and mileage. Obviously, a car that's older and has more mileage is going to be cheaper than a car that's newer and has less mileage. Now, a car that's been regularly serviced, well maintained, no dents, no accidents, interiors in good condition, those vehicles are going to cost more money than cars that have never been serviced, the oil hasn't been changed in 50,000 kilometers, and it has a rebuilt title. Last, we have the economy, and that's inflation and interest rates. These two factors affect prices by influencing what buyers can afford. If the majority of people are qualifying for smaller loans, then the demand for these more expensive vehicles is going to go down, and that's going to push prices down with it. So to make a fair comparison between Toyota and their competition, I'm controlling for all of these variables. We're only looking at cars with clean titles from 2015, so 10 years old, and that they have around 200,000 kilometers, because that's the average distance people drive in 10 years, 2015 to 2025, that's 10 years. And why 10-year-old cars? Because when I was looking for a Toyota under $10,000, my only options were cars that were 20 years old or had 300,000 kilometers. No thanks. So I've bumped up the price a little bit to ensure that we're still looking at good quality cars with a lot of life left. Now that we've set the ground rules, let's look at some data. We all know cars depreciate, but by how much? This chart shows the typical depreciation curve. About 20% in the first year, 60% by the fifth, and around 12% per year from years 6 to 10. After 10 years, most cars will have depreciated 79%, or phrased another way, will only be worth 21% of their original price. This is the normal depreciation curve. But let's see how certain full-size SUVs stack up against it. This data is linear as opposed to a curve because we don't have pricing data for when these vehicles were 5 years old. Also, that would have been in 2020 when the economy was shut down, which would skew the data. We're really only interested in the end point anyways because that is right now, 2025. Leading the pack, surprise, surprise, is the Toyota Sequoia, holding on to a shocking 40.2% of its original MSRP after 10 years. That's nearly double what you'd expect. But to illustrate this point even further, there is another full-size SUV that holds its value even better. The Lexus LX 570, another Toyota product, retains 47.6% of its original MSRP. That is incredible. An absurd amount for any vehicle, let alone a luxury SUV. Now let's look at the competition. The key takeaways from this data, nearly all of these vehicles except the QX80 are worth more than you'd expect based on depreciation alone, which explains why many people feel used cars aren't as affordable as they used to be. But the second key point is that most vehicles depreciate 60% in the first 5 years. The LX 570 and Sequoia haven't even depreciated that much after 10 years, twice the amount of time, and we can only assume twice the mileage. The value these vehicles hold is mind-blowing. Let's move on to the midsize SUV category and see if this trend holds true. Here's the same depreciation curve, but now we're looking at midsize SUVs. Predictably, the Toyota Highlander leads the charge, depreciating the least. But similar to full-size SUVs, there is one vehicle that crushes everyone else, And once again, it's a Toyota, the Toyota 4Runner. The 4Runner is still worth 50% of its original price after 10 years and 200,000 kilometers. Just insane. But let's not get lost in percentages. How does this data translate into actual prices that affect you, the buyer? Let's look at some real numbers. In this table, we're looking at the current cost of these 2015 models, which is the average price based on listing data from AutoTrader and Car Gurus. And these are dealer prices, not private listings. Next, we have what these vehicles should cost based on standard depreciation. And lastly, the difference between those two values. The higher up on the list, the more of a premium you are paying for these vehicles. Notice who tops the list. Yep, 2 Toyotas and a Lexus. And the premium you're paying for them is over $13,000. Interestingly, the Suburban and Tahoe are also going for a lot of money for GM products, but maybe that can be a video for another day. Let's focus on 2 models, the 4Runner and the Highlander. 2 very popular Toyota SUVs, but they serve different purposes. A Highlander is great for everyday driving and someone who just needs to get from A to B, whereas the 4Runner is more likely to be purchased by a car enthusiast because of its towing and off-road capability. Let's start with the Highlander. In terms of capability, technology, and reliability, it is incredibly similar to the Honda Pilot, yet costs $4,300 more. And it's still more expensive than the QX80, which is orders of magnitude more luxurious, has better towing, and had a sticker price of almost $93,000 when it was new. As for the 4Runner, well, you could buy 2 Audi Q5s for the same price as one 4Runner. But Lucas, the Q5 can't go off-roading like the 4Runner. Fair point. But the Xterra can, and it's $10,000 cheaper. Look, I understand if you're set on a 4Runner, I'm not trying to change your mind. They're sick cars. But just as a comparison, in that $25,000 ballpark, you could get this, or even this. I know, comparing a Toyota to high-end luxury SUVs like the QX80, Q5, Cayenne, Range Rover, it's pretty ridiculous. The people who buy those vehicles are not the people who are buying the Toyotas. Completely different mindsets. And as far as reliability goes, we can all agree that the Toyota will outlast most luxury vehicles. But here's the catch. If you don't know a vehicle's history, if you're not the original owner, how reliable can a vehicle be? You are paying a premium for that peace of mind of reliability when it comes to Toyotas. But is that premium justified? Let me share a quick story. A few years ago, I purchased a 2003 Toyota Highlander and it had over 200,000 kilometers and it still cost me around $6,000 for a 20-year-old vehicle. But I justified that in my mind because it was a Toyota. It was supposed to be reliable. So I just wanted this car to be my winter beater. It was going to start every morning in the cold weather and get me from A to B. So what did I do? I changed all the fluids, I did the timing belt, and then if it needed any major service after that, or if something bad happened, that was it. I wasn't going to put any more money into it. Well, something bad did happen 6 months later. And apparently that was due to improper or lack of maintenance before I even bought the vehicle. So all this just to say, a car is only as reliable as the owners who take care of it. So given all of this, if you are set on a Toyota and a few years ago you asked me for my advice, I 100% would have said, go buy a new one. They'll have minimal maintenance. You don't have to worry about anything catastrophic happening because you have a warranty, and you'll lose way less money to depreciation when you go to either sell the car or trade it in. But now those new Toyotas are so expensive. $115,000 for a Sequoia or $84,000 for a top trim 4Runner. What is a buyer who's looking for affordability supposed to do? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Is there a sweet spot to buy these vehicles? It seems like there's no good options for the average Joe just looking for an affordable, reliable car. Let me know in the comments what you would do. And as always, thanks for watching.